Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Flowr Q2 2020 earnings call. I will now turn the call over to your host today, Mr. Terry L. Malay. Thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, operator. Participating on today's call are the Flowr Corporation CEO, Vinay, Flowr's President, Lance Emanuel, and our CFO, Vinay. Please note that throughout the call we will refer to Flowr and the company interchangeably with the Flowr Corporation. Before management discusses results, I would like to remind participants that all amounts discussed on this call are denominated in Canadian dollars. Please also note that the statements made during this call may include forward-looking information and future-oriented financial information regarding Flowr, its business, and disclosure regarding possible events, conditions, or results that are based on information currently available to management, which indicate management's expectations of future growth, results of operations, business performance, and business prospects and opportunities. Such statements are made as of the date hereof, and Flowr assumes no obligation to update or revise them to reflect events, disclosures, or circumstances except as required by applicable securities laws. Such statements involve significant risks and uncertainties that are not guarantees of future performance or results, as a number of these risks and uncertainties could cause results to differ materially from the results discussed today. Given the risks and uncertainties, one should not place undue reliance on these statements and information. Please refer to the risk factors, forward-looking information, and future-oriented financial information sections of our public filings, including without limitation our Q2 financial statements and MD&A and Q2 2020 earnings press release for additional information, all of which will be filed by the markets open tomorrow morning. In addition, this discussion may include certain financial performance measures that are not defined by IFRS and are used by management to assess the financial and operational performance of the company. These non-IFRS measures include, but are not limited to, adjusted EBITDA. As there are no standard methods of calculating non-IFRS measures, the company's approach may differ from those used by others in the industry and may not be comparable as a result. Accordingly, these non-IFRS measures are intended to provide additional information and should not be considered independently or in substitution for measures prepared in accordance with IFRS. We refer to you our MD&A for Q2 2020, which includes reconciliations of these measures. It's now my pleasure to turn the floor over to Vinay, our CEO.
Thank you, Terry. Earlier this afternoon, we released our second quarter results, which showed progress against our financial and strategic objectives. In particular, sales momentum continued to build for us in our Canadian rec business. We believe that the fundamental thesis that we've been speaking about since we founded Flowr is playing out in the marketplace. Specifically, that people want high-quality cannabis and that there's a bifurcation of quality in the market. On the one hand, there's been a proliferation of value brands and offerings at the lower end of the market, and on the flip side, where we compete, and what we are seeing is a clear willingness for consumers to pay up for higher quality and differentiated products, such as our flagship BC Pink Kush. We're proud to say that over the past 1, 3, and 6 months, our BC Pink Kush has been the number one selling SKU at the Ontario cannabis stores by dollar volume and sales to retailers. That's the top selling SKU regardless of size. As retail distribution in Ontario continues to expand, we have increasing visibility on demand for our product as Ontario continues to be our biggest market. We've also made incremental investments in sales and marketing, which we believe will drive greater awareness and penetration throughout the country. In addition, we recently received our AMP approval from Quebec and expect to be in market in the fourth quarter. Our facility was fully operational in the quarter with all 20 of our grow rooms in production by mid-April. As such, we produced approximately 1,350 kilos of dried flower, with over 85% of that being BC Pink Kush. A good portion of that product was harvested in late June, which set us up well as we entered Q3. Yields in the facility continue to improve, and the trend is in the right direction. We recently had a record harvest of over 88 kilos from a single room. In other production news during the second quarter, lab testing showed a wider dispersion of THC levels than historically observed in certain plants. We traced the dispersion to specific mother plants whose offspring were not consistently producing dried flower in the expected THC bands. We do not plan to use these mother plants for production beyond the third quarter. At this time, we're unable to confidently assess how much production will have lower THC levels than historically observed as a result of these issues. While we're taking steps to ensure these types of risks are minimized in the future, our facility design and the ability to isolate areas allows us to address these issues in a systematic way. We believe we have enough inventory on hand currently to meet demand and reiterate our objective of becoming cash flow positive in the second half of 2020. Now I'll turn it over to Irina to run through more of our financial details from the second quarter.
Thank you, Vinay, and good evening, everyone. As Vinay touched upon, we made significant progress towards our stated objectives in the second quarter. Gross revenue was $2.9 million for the quarter, which represented a 192% increase from our fiscal first quarter and was our highest quarter since our initial sell into the rec market in 2018. Net revenue was $2.3 million, which was above expectations. Similar to other organizations, COVID impacted our sales in Q2. While we did see a recovery late in the quarter, the closing of retail locations was a revenue headwind in Q2. We sold 419 kilos of product in the quarter, of which over 80% was our flagship BC Pink Kush at an overall average price of $5.88 per gram. Price per gram was impacted by form factor mix, such as packaged versus bulk versus pre-rolls. Excluding bulk sales, the Flowr branded price per gram was $6.69, reflecting our positioning in the premium segment. We continue to be confident in our pricing strategy and do not expect price erosion in the near term on our Flowr branded products. The total cost of sales were $2.9 million for the quarter. Costs remained somewhat elevated in the quarter, given that we sold inventory which was harvested in Q1. As you may recall, only 10 grow rooms in the first quarter were operational versus 20 rooms in the second quarter. Due to less fixed cost dilution and minimal automation, inventory produced in the first quarter had a higher cost base, which impacted our second quarter cost of sales. The normalized cash cost per gram sold in the quarter, which excludes depreciation, amortization, share-based compensation, and one-time adjustments, was $3.58 compared to $4.91 during Q1, as the company began to see the benefits of its automated packaging line during the quarter. The benefits of automation are expected to be fully realized in Q3. By way of example, our Q2 bulk cash of goods manufactured was sub $2 per gram, which proves our thesis that we should expect a material improvement in the cost of goods sold in Q3, and we'll have these two tailwinds at our back. The company impaired $461,000 of product in the second quarter, pertaining primarily to legacy strains. We do not expect any significant legacy strain impairments going forward. Selling, general, and administrative expenditures, consisting primarily of salaries and professional fees, were approximately $4.6 million in the quarter compared to $6.3 million in Q1, as the company saw the benefits of the global restructuring program announced in March and tighter expense management. As Vinay mentioned, given our leading market position, we have begun investing in our sales and marketing activities in order to drive increased distribution and deeper penetration nationally, and expect the investment to continue through the balance of the year. Adjusted EBITDA in the first quarter, which excludes certain non-cash expenditures and restructuring costs, was a loss of $2.9 million as compared to a reported loss of $6.9 million during the first quarter of 2020. The decrease in loss was largely due to both improved revenue and lower SG&A costs. As we noted during our last call, the organization closed a $21.6 million non-brokered private placement of convertible debenture units led by management and insiders in the second quarter. The private placement allowed us to bolster our balance sheet position while driving towards becoming cash flow positive in the second half of this year. We will do so by increased demand-driven sales, scale, and operational efficiencies, and the SG&A measures previously discussed. Achieving positive cash flow will be the first step to achieving our targeted adjusted EBITDA margins of 25% in 2021. The company does not expect any further material CapEx investments in K1 this year, as the facility is operationally complete. However, we do expect some modest CapEx investment in the third quarter to complete the R&D facility, which is expected to be fully completed and operational in the early part of the fourth quarter. You may recall in our Q4 financials, the company financially impaired all of Flowr Forest inventory pertaining to our Health Canada review of a regulatory interpretation. Based on the outcome of the review, which was recently finalized, the company plans to destroy and dispose of the Flowr Forest inventory in the fourth quarter of 2020. It is important to note that there is no impact to either of the company licenses based on the outcome of this review, and no restrictions have been placed on our operations. Portugal is expected to begin contributing to revenue and profitability in early 2021. We are extremely excited about the progress with the crops and aldestrol and are enthusiastic about the Terrace Global and Flowr partnership. To date, we have received approximately $1.3 million in funding from the partnership and expect additional funding to support the operations in the third quarter. In terms of the third quarter, the organization is expecting revenue growth of at least 30%. I will now turn the call back to Vinay for closing remarks.
Thanks, Irina. As Irina mentioned, we didn't talk much about Europe, and I would like to share my excitement around the upcoming harvest in Portugal in late Q3, early Q4. The crops look extremely impressive, and the scale of the project is simply enormous. We believe this is the largest outdoor THC cultivation harvest in European history, and are looking forward towards commercializing the business in 2021 with our JV partner, Terrace Global. Back to Canada, as the industry hits more of a steady state, we see the value in building the premium segment of the dried flower market. Brands will matter, and as more new stores open, they will seek to carry products they're confident will sell through, just like any other retail space. A recent consumer research report by the Brightfield Group highlighted Flowr as the number 7 ranked brand by awareness in Canada, and had Flowr ranked number 1 or 2 in a variety of loyalty, brand promotion, and satisfaction scores among the top 10 purchased brands in Canada. We're beginning to compile more data related to our consumer disposition funnel. We're seeing marked increases in prompted awareness and trial use for our brand, especially in the coveted young adult demographic. The data speaks for itself. We're in the segment of the market where we want to be, and we expect these numbers to increase with further distribution and product awareness. There's plenty of work to do, but with roughly 1,100 stores in the country, a number which is increasing rapidly, the data shows that our brand is increasingly addressing the need for a high-quality experience. We're now happy to answer any questions you may have. Operator, please open the line for questions.
At this time, if you would like to ask a question, press star and the number 1 on your telephone. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. Please stand by while we compile the Q&A roster. Our first question comes from the line of William Kirk. And you're live.
Thanks everybody for taking the question. I guess my first question is, it seems like you have ample supply now for quarters that can be much larger than 2Q. So I guess my question is, I'm wondering why the 3Q revenue guidance can't be higher than it is.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Good question. The big turning point there is Quebec, is when we enter into the Quebec market. So we just received our authorization to get into Quebec, I think it was last week. And so we expect to have shipping product in Quebec in hopefully September.
Okay, and then I guess this is related. I think previously you've said it takes about $2 million in monthly sales to be cash flow positive. I know you're still saying cash flow positive in the back half of 2020. Does that still mean you expect about $6 million per quarter in revenue in the back half?
So we had previously said, it takes between 1.8 to 2.3. It really depends on where we are at in the harvest cycle. And to be very direct and to answer your question, I would say that sort of $6 million mark would be the trend at the back end of Q4. Yes.
Okay. I'll hop back in the queue, but thank you for taking the question.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
The next question comes from the line of David Kadeko with ATB Capital Markets.
Thank you, operator. This is Ven, pinch hitting on behalf of David. Firstly, congrats on the quarter. I have a couple of questions. Yeah, we noticed that Flowr's BC Pink Kush has very impressive performance in terms of brand awareness and consumer preferences. So just trying to understand what differentiates your BC Pink Kush from the PC Pink Kush strains of other companies.
Yeah, it's a good question. So as we've said, these strains aren't created equally. The chemical composition of the plant depends highly on the genetics and in the conditions in which it's grown. You know, our expertise is on is really on the cultivation side, and where we can control basically every variable to have a very consistent and create a plant that really expresses the full genetic potential of the particular phenotype. So, you know, you can give a handful of people the exact same genetic starting material, and we can end up with wildly different products. So, I would say that our product is different than other Pink Kushes on the market, and then in particular, Pink Kush really meets as I mentioned before, we're doing a lot more data on the consumer, and this is all data that hasn't been available over the last year, and we're seeing that primarily people are using the product during the evening to unwind, and that's really an occasion that suits the kind of characteristics of Pink Kush. So we're in a space in the kind of the usage occasion space that we want to be in, and we're in that space with the product which we believe is the highest quality product in that category.
Makes sense, and thanks for the insights. And just want to know if you have plans to introduce other premium strains into the market in addition to Pink Kush.
Absolutely. We will be releasing some additional strains in end of Q3, early Q4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have some data related to the last 1 month and 3 months and 6 months highest selling SKU. So is this data available publicly somewhere?
Yeah, this is data from the OCS. This is data that we get from the OCS. I don't know if they issue it publicly, but it's impressive that even that we're the number one selling SKU. This is specifically the sales to retailers at the OCS, and as I mentioned before, that includes all product sizes. So that's including the ounce bags and the other value products. We're still the number one selling SKU in terms of dollar sales.
I don't believe the OCS data is available publicly, but the Bright Fields Group report, which is incredibly insightful, is available publicly.
That's great. And finally, this time we see that you have sales of bulk cannabis. Is that wholesale to other LP? And can you provide more color on that? And is it a recurring agreement or a one-time sale?
So we do have, I'll answer that a couple of ways. So yes, it is to another LP. In Q3, it was predominantly a one-time, albeit we are in discussions for a longer-term partnership. What's exciting about some of the agreements that we've had is that we are selling through on our BC Pink Kush, but we are also selling through as part of our agreement some legacy strains as well. So it's a combination of a couple of different strains that we're selling through.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Again, in order to ask a question, press star 1 on your telephone. Your next question comes from the line of Jeff Reisner with Fiduciary Financial.
Hi there. Could you speak into what happened with Flowr Forest a little more?
Sure. Lance, you want to take that one?
Yes. So with Flowr Forest, we had a successful production in Flowr Forest last year, and due to just the way we were operating the the production of it and just a misinterpretation with respect to the guidelines. We decided to originally impair the product, but ultimately now we will destroy the product in Q4 of this year.
And just to add to that, so this was, as Lance said, this was an interpretation of the guidelines specifically around drying and processing plants out in the field. And while we have to, while we will destroy this product, this does not impede us from using Flowr Forest next year, or doesn't. There's no impact on our license going forward.
And is there any impact on the effect that you anticipate with respect to second half cash flow positivity?
No, because we earlier this year when we did our restructuring, we put a pause on our live resin forecast, and that product that we had at Flowr Forest was intended to be used for the live resin. So this product was in none of our numbers when it came to hitting cash flow positivity.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have David Kadeko again with ATB Capital Markets.
Hi guys, this is Vinay again. I just wanted to have more color on your European harvest. You mentioned that it's expected in the Q4. So do you have any visibility on distribution deals or anything like that? Any additional color would be helpful.
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. So the plants look great. We have roughly 40,000 plants out in the field. We're going to be harvesting them, late September, early October. The issue on distribution deals is it's hard to get signed distribution deals without certificate of analysis. So without knowing the exact chemical composition of the plants, it's hard to secure deals. What I can say is that we've seen lots of interest in the product. So we are confident that if the plants come into the spec to which we believe they will, that we'll have no issue selling the product. And Lance, if you want to add some color to that, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, we've spoken with over 25 different distribution partners over the past 6 months. Everyone's chomping at the bit to partner with us. Obviously, there's a lot of visibility on what we're doing in Portugal, and large part because of the partnership with Terrace, and they've been great partners with us. And we do not expect to have any problem selling any GMP product that we produce this year, particularly product that ends up becoming high THC being defined as north of 20% THC. I mean, there's just endless demand for that product in the market, and we're also in deep conversations with several players to become strong distribution partners to us to get into pharmacies and build relationships with physicians. It's really exciting. There's, again, endless opportunities with it.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
And we have no further questions at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's conference call. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.
Thank you.
Thank you.